Once upon a time, in a grand estate nestled in the countryside, lived a remarkably intelligent rabbit named Oliver. The estate, known as Everwood Manor, belonged to a kind and wealthy family, the Everwoods, who cherished nature and all its creatures. Oliver was no ordinary rabbit. He had a sleek, shiny coat of fur and bright, inquisitive eyes that seemed to sparkle with intelligence. The Everwood family had discovered him as a baby, nestled in the garden, and had decided to adopt him. They soon realized that Oliver was exceptionally clever. He quickly learned to open gates, find hidden treats, and even respond to simple commands. One sunny afternoon, as Mrs. Everwood prepared for a grand garden party, Oliver noticed something amiss. The family's prized roses, which were to be the centerpiece of the party decorations, had been infested with aphids. The gardener, who was away on a break, had not noticed the problem. Oliver knew the garden party was important, and he wanted to help. Using his keen sense of smell, Oliver scurried around the garden until he found a colony of ladybugs, natural predators of aphids. With a series of gentle nudges and hops, he guided the ladybugs to the rose bushes. Within hours, the ladybugs had begun to feast on the aphids, and the roses were saved. When the Everwood family returned to the garden, they were astonished to see the roses free of pests. Mrs. Everwood, puzzled but relieved, noticed Oliver sitting proudly by the bushes. She had always known Oliver was special, but this act of intelligence and helpfulness warmed her heart even more. Word of Oliver's cleverness spread among the guests at the garden party. Everyone was eager to meet the smart rabbit who had saved the day. Oliver became the star of the evening, charming everyone with his playful antics and sharp mind. Children giggled as he performed little tricks, and adults marveled at his ingenuity. As the sun set over Everwood Manor, casting a golden glow on the lush gardens, Oliver basked in the affection and admiration of the guests. He knew that his home with the Everwood family was a place where he was loved and appreciated, not just for his cleverness, but for being himself. From that day on, Oliver continued to be a cherished member of the Everwood household. He was always finding new ways to help out and entertain, proving time and again that sometimes, the smallest creatures can make the biggest difference. And so, in the heart of the rich and vibrant estate, lived the smartest rabbit in all the land, happy and content in his beloved Everwood Manor. Oliver, the smart rabbit of Everwood Manor, was well cared for by the Everwood family. Each day, he eagerly anticipated his meals, which were prepared with great care by Mrs. Everwood herself. She had a special fondness for Oliver and always made sure he had the best diet to keep him healthy and happy. In the morning, Mrs. Everwood would come to the garden where Oliver had his cozy hutch. She always greeted him with a warm smile and a gentle pat on the head. "Good morning, Oliver," she'd say. "I have something special for you today." Oliver would twitch his nose in excitement as Mrs. Everwood set down a bowl filled with fresh, crisp vegetables. There were crunchy carrots, leafy greens, and juicy slices of apple. Sometimes, she would add a few sprigs of fragrant herbs like parsley and basil, which Oliver loved. "Here you go, dear Oliver," Mrs. Everwood said, placing the bowl in front of him. Oliver nuzzled her hand in thanks before diving into his meal. He savored each bite, knowing that his food was prepared with love. In addition to his regular meals, Mrs. Everwood would sometimes treat Oliver to special snacks. She knew he had a fondness for strawberries, so she would occasionally bring him a few ripe ones from the garden. Oliver's eyes would light up at the sight of the red, juicy berries, and he would carefully nibble them, savoring their sweetness. One afternoon, as Mrs. Everwood was busy in the kitchen, Mr. Everwood decided to take over the feeding duties. He knew how much his wife enjoyed this daily routine with Oliver, and he wanted to make sure everything was just right. He prepared a bowl with an assortment of Oliver's favorite vegetables and fruits. As he approached the garden, Oliver hopped over to him, recognizing the familiar sight of the bowl. Mr. Everwood chuckled and gently placed the bowl on the ground. "Here you go, Oliver," he said. "A feast fit for the smartest rabbit in the world." Oliver nibbled on his meal, occasionally glancing up at Mr. Everwood, as if to say thank you. The bond between Oliver and the Everwood family grew stronger with each passing day. They loved and cared for him, and he, in return, brought joy and laughter into their lives. As the seasons changed, Oliver continued to thrive, his coat glossy and his eyes bright. The Everwood family knew that their clever rabbit was not just a pet, but a beloved member of their household. And Oliver, with his keen mind and loving heart, felt truly at home in the warmth and care of the Everwood Manor. Oliver, the clever rabbit of Everwood Manor, was not only intelligent but also deeply loyal and honest to the Everwood family. His bond with the family was built on trust and mutual respect, making him an indispensable part of their lives. One sunny afternoon, as Mrs. Everwood was tending to her flowers in the garden, she realized she had misplaced her wedding ring. She had taken it off while working to avoid getting it dirty, but now she couldn't remember where she had placed it. Panic began to set in as she frantically searched the garden, retracing her steps. Oliver, sensing her distress, hopped over to her side. His inquisitive nose twitched as he observed her worried expression. Mrs. Everwood looked at him and sighed, "Oh, Oliver, I've lost something very precious." Oliver, always perceptive, seemed to understand. He immediately began to search alongside her, using his keen sense of smell. He sniffed around the garden bed, the patio, and the grass, carefully examining each area. Minutes turned into an hour, and Mrs. Everwood was on the verge of giving up hope. Suddenly, she heard a soft thump behind her. Turning around, she saw Oliver sitting up on his hind legs, something shiny clutched between his tiny paws. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she realized it was her missing wedding ring. "Oh, Oliver. You found it," she exclaimed, tears of relief welling up in her eyes. She gently took the ring from him and placed it back on her finger. Kneeling down, she wrapped her arms around the little rabbit, hugging him tightly. "Thank you, dear Oliver. You're my hero." Oliver nuzzled against her, happy to have helped. His honest nature and loyalty to the Everwood family shone through in moments like these. He was always there when they needed him, ready to lend a paw or a nudge in the right direction. Another instance of Oliver's honesty came during a particularly stormy night. The family was gathered in the living room, enjoying a cozy evening by the fireplace. A loud crash echoed from the kitchen, startling everyone. Mr. Everwood got up to investigate, but Oliver was already on his way. Hopping into the kitchen, Oliver found the source of the noise. The wind had blown open a window, knocking over a vase. Water and flowers were scattered across the floor. Oliver carefully nudged the window shut with his nose, then hopped back to the living room. Seeing Oliver's damp paws, Mr. Everwood followed him to the kitchen. When he saw the mess, he understood what had happened. "Good job, Oliver," he said, patting the rabbit gently. "Thank you for letting us know." Oliver's honesty and quick actions prevented further damage that night. The Everwood family knew they could always count on their smart and honest rabbit to look out for them. In every way, Oliver proved to be more than just a pet. He was a true friend, honest and loyal, making the Everwood Manor not just a house, but a home filled with love and trust.